for our youngest class out of 6. And your grid is as follows. SP Motorsports' Dean Hugendorn is on pole position, ahead of Tom Pappenberg from the Netherlands. So it's an all-Dutch front row, 98 and 48 respectively. PG Motorsports' Karel Stout in the number 33 representing Belgium is on P3. And alongside him is the 2020 Rotax Max Challenge Winter Cup champion, Scott Marsh, running in the number 47 with Dan Holland Racing. Mies Houben and Van Rooyen round out the top 3 rows. So that's an all-Dutch row number 3. Mick Vandenberg and Boris Maximov are rounding out the top 8 positions, along with Sweden's Erik Poulsen, Jake Menton from the Netherlands in 10th, and Tihon Rodkin rounding out the 11 strong, I think the sole Belarusian in this particular category. With the Netherlands having a monopoly on this one, with 7 drivers, the most represented nationality in this particular category alone. And just by having a look through the information that I've gathered ahead of this race weekend, the Netherlands have actually got the highest representation, even though they are tied in 2 classes, in micro, mini, junior and senior this weekend. Quite an impressive 4 out of 6 classes, and they have as many drivers as they can. So once again, it's Hugendorn on pole, Pappenberg alongside, and we will not have Jake Menton taking part, so we're down already. So Menton having a breakdown on a mechanical side on what is effectively between turns 3 and 4. So 10 drivers, so it's Hugendorn, Pappenberg, Stout, Marsh, Houben, Rooyen, Vandenberg, Maximov, Poulsen and Rodkin. That is the 10 strong. Hopefully we'll see Menton back in the thick of the action for the second final. So Jake Menton's charge towards the ticket to Le Mans has unfortunately ended up into a mechanical roadblock that he did not want at this particular moment in time. So it will be down to Hugendorn and Pappenberg on the front row. Micromax get ready for action here at the kickoff. We go into the tram lines. The engines roar up the rev range. We go lights out. We head down towards turn 1 as they're getting very, very close indeed. Oh, Scott Marsh has been spun. Or did that happen inadvertently? He might have been an unwilling participant, but Scott Marsh down to the back part of the order. Who is that at the back part of the field? Because Scott Marsh, from what was 4th on the grid, now has an incredible amount of work to do, but I know the pedigree of the youngster from the UK. He can push forward, and he will use British gusto and resolve to do so, as the drivers now who are leading the field will be heading through into turn 9, first time, and it's a 5-way scrap at the front of the field. So the replay showed that Scott Marsh ended up being turned around, as it is still Hugendorn leading, as there looks to be a positional change for P4, and that is Karel Stout, who I think is swapping places. And that looks to be with Mick Vandenberg, who's come flying up the order. So Mick Vandenberg up to P5, and that was Van Rooyen that was also ended up on the outside of turn 2. So Hugendorn has a lead as Pappenberg coming under pressure from the likes of Houben, Stout and Vandenberg, as Houben ends up slightly tapping the rear bumper of Pappenberg going through into turn number 7. Stout looks to be very racy, shows some good composure, and looks to go up the inside for third place on Houben on the inside of turn 10. Makes the move stick, does the 33. Nice work there from the PG Motorsport driver. We've got 12 minutes plus an additional lap as Scott Marsh now breathing down the back bumper of Boaz Maximov. So Marsh, let's see what his lap times are in comparison with, say, Dean Hugendorn, for instance. Scott Marsh has just put in a 1 minute 4.364, and that is about 0.6 of a second off of the leader at the minute. So Marsh and Maximov battling away, and that is over 8th place. And Dean Hugendorn is in another area code. As Stout going for... Oh, Stout and also Papenburg go into turn 7. Papenburg ends up going sideways, goes 180 degrees the wrong way, backwards into one of the foam barriers. I'm not too sure whether there was any potential interlocking of wheels, but it looked very, very close indeed. And that means that now we have another driver well and truly on the back foot, as Papenburg was looking very, very good in second position. Stout had the run going down into turn 7, and I think it was a bit of push. Let's have a look at the replay here. Okay, Stout's got towards the inside line, and I'm not too sure whether Papenburg... Yeah, Papenburg may not have looked. I'm not too sure. Driver number 226, Junior Rotax, to the stewards immediately. That's driver 226, Junior Rotax, to the stewards immediately. That's Yuri Shons. So I'm not going to make any comment. I'm not too sure. I didn't really see, but I saw a turn in from Papenburg, and Stout was committed. So it's down to the race stewards, race control on that one, I'm afraid. But Stout did have a good run, but now they've got to start chasing down Dean Hugendorn, who again is just motoring away. But Scott Marsh has been moving forward and is consistently running in the 1 minute 4.3s. It's just been put in his best lap of a 1 minute 4.307, and that is 0.84 of a second off of the pace that Hugendorn is setting, and that's on his own. That is clearly with him. Clear track ahead as Vandenberg trying to put the feelers out on Huben for third place. As now Karel Stout has a gap of around 5.5 tenths of a second on Huben. And yeah, so 0.539. Now Scott Marsh is only 7.3 seconds off of the leaders. We have about 9 or so minutes still to go, plus an additional lap. So on pure pace, if I know for the fact that Scott Marsh has got the bit between his teeth to try and move forward, as Mick Vandenberg looking to be a bit more foreboding on the back bumper of Mies Huben, who's with GKS. So Hugendorn continues to lead. The gap was nearly 2.3 seconds last time around, and now it is 2.4 dead between Dean Hugendorn and Karel Stout, as Mick Vandenberg goes towards the inside to get the outside of turn 2 to try and get the cut back. But Huben still very resolute, as Scott Marsh now is really battling away and has got Tion Rodkin from Belarus, and Scott Marsh just neatly picks off the Belarusian very, very easily through turn 5. That was a great job by the Briton, as the late Ayrton Senna said, if you don't go for a gap, you're not a racing driver, and Scott Marsh just personified that perfectly right then. So Scott Marsh now will have Erik Paulsson from Sweden as his next target. So Hugendorn still comfortably leading at the minute, as the gap between Huben and Vandenberg was about a cart length as they crossed the start-finish line. Vandenberg closing up in the braking zone going through turn 2. Now Scott Marsh, let's have a look at the gap he's going to make up on Erik Paulsson. That looks to be just over 2.75 seconds that the Brit has got to make up. And just looking at the lap times, Marsh is now running, in the last lap around he did a 1 minute 4.8, so he was battling with Rodkin at that particular moment in time, as both Huben and Vandenberg hustling it through turn 7. Just even though these might be our youngest competitors here this weekend, they are definitely the case of they are showing that they will be fully motivated and committed as best they can. And this is where the drivers do start their racecraft skills, start to get that gauge. And there are some that shine, there are some that take a little bit more momentum over the course of their rise through the ranks. So now the gap between Vandenberg and Poulsen, which is 4th to 5th, that is 3.5 seconds. Scott Marsh is around 2.8 seconds off of Erik Poulsen, as Poulsen was slightly faster that last time around. As here comes Mick Vandenberg up the inside for 3rd place. Nicely done there. Nicely done there by Mick Vandenberg. But Mies Huben goes back up the inside to retake the position. Vandenberg, if you put this round the outside, a little clash of wheels there, but nothing too out of the ordinary, because the pair gave each other fair racing room, and Vandenberg is absolutely wanting to get that 3rd place back. As Hubens just said, well, work with me. Vandenberg saying, I'm having other ideas, which means that he wants to get past and get 3rd place. 5 minutes and 18 plus an additional lap left to go. Enticing battle. But whilst they're battling away, I'm just seeing that Scott Marsh is consistent on the lap times. He's just put in a 1 minute 3.9, which was about 1.7 tenths shy of the lap time that Erik Poulsen just put in. So Marsh, having started on row 2, now finds himself in 6th place. So after the 2 finals, the tallies for the weekend will be ratified, and the winner will get a ticket to Le Mans, but also in the second race this afternoon, the fastest lap the driver that sets the fastest lap gets a brand new PL8 design race helmet bag to carry around what is effectively, I would like to call, a race driver's identity, a race helmet with their own respective liveries on there. Hugendorn now has a lead of nearly 3.5 seconds over Karol Stout. Then it is the battle that those who are watching on screen at the minute, it's Mies Huben and Mick Vandenberg battling away over 3rd place at the moment. And here comes Vandenberg down towards turn 7. Oh no, has to back out of the manoeuvre and decides to use discretion as the better part of valour on that particular occasion. So that's 3rd and 4th. Erik Poulsen from Sweden rounds out the top 5 and is just under 3 seconds ahead of Great Britain's Scott Marsh in the 47. Boris Maximov in 7th place. Tion Rodkin and Van Rooyen rounding out the 9 that are still circulating. Tom Pappenberg, after the contact with Karol Stout earlier on in the race, has now, called it a day on lap number 3. Jake Menton, unfortunately, didn't even make it to the race start itself. But the battle really that is keeping myself entertained quite a bit is the battle between Huben and Vandenberg. That's the battle for 3rd place as the pair now go down the back straightaway. They put the accelerators to the floor and they actually pass a Renault Scenic that's adjacent to them, or they keep pace with it. So even with the youngsters in the Micromax class, they still can accelerate because the power to weight ratio of a Micromax kart is quite significantly better than a Renault Megane Scenic. And we've had a penalty. The race control, the stewards have decided that Karol Stout will now have a 5-second penalty, and this is verbatim as per the timings, that they have deemed it unsportsmanlike behaviour and have given him a 5-second penalty, which will drop him from 2nd position. And that will put him 4th at the end of this race, if the way things are going. So Karol Stout now has some work to do and has already got a 2.9 second advantage over Huben and Vandenberg. So if he pulls another 2.1 seconds out of the bag, well, 2.2, and he's been running in the 1 minute 3s. He's just done a 1 minute 3.049 has Karol Stout. And Huben and Vandenberg are running about, well, 0.6 of a second slower at the very least, because they're battling away over third place. 1 minute 17 plus an additional lap left to go, as Hugendorn now goes on to lap number 13 of this race. And the gap now, I think Karel Stout has just heard me, because the gap now has increased to 3.585 seconds between him and Mies Huben. And then it's a further 10th back to Mick Vandenberg. And there's a great little battle happening between Van Rooyen and Tion Rodkin, and that is for 8th place at the moment. It looks like I think Van Rooyen might be up ahead at the minute. As Mick Vandenberg has made it stick on Mies Huben for P3. As Dean Hugendorn now comes across the line to start another lap. This will be lap number 14 of the race. Karel Stout just under 2.46 seconds adrift. And then the gap to Mick Vandenberg is a nigh on a country mile, is 4.58 seconds. And again, Mies Huben is now threatening on the back bumper of the 29 for third position. So the timer has now expired on this race. This is the penultimate lap, and Dean Hugendorn from Stampex Motorsport will see it first, ahead of Karel Stout, as, well, Mies Huben was looking towards the outside of Mick Vandenberg through turn 7, had to slot in behind the number 29, so that battle is far from over, as, Mies Huben up the inside of Mick Vandenberg through turn 9. That was a great job from the GKS Lemons driver, but that is allowing Karel Stout to get away and get more time in his favour. So, final lap board is shown to Dean Hugendorn from the Netherlands. Now Karel Stout sees the sign and puts the head down to get as much aerodynamic efficiency as the kart will allow, with Mies Huben going defensive on Mick Vandenberg as they head towards the kink at turn 1, then brake heavily into 2. Vandenberg a little bit closer up on the braking now, through the left into 3. Now into the turn 4. Up to the final of the triple left-hander at turn 5 before the short braking zone for 6. And looks like Vandenberg's got the run on Huben, but he's actually pulled to the left-hand side as they head towards turn 7. And, well, Karel Stout has done, I think, pretty much enough, because whilst Mies Huben and Mick Vandenberg have been squabbling over what is third position on the road, the gap between Stout and Huben last time around was 5.5 seconds. Checkered flag being prepared for the first of 2 Micromax finals, and Dean Hugendorn wins for SP Motorsports. Second, PG Motorsports Belgian wonder that is Karel Stout. Mies Huben will get the run to the line, or will he? Oh, he shuts the door on Mick Vandenberg as they nearly have a drag race to the finish. Mies Huben finished 6.149 seconds. This is a final call for these drivers. Senior Rotax 345 and driver 226 Junior Rotax. This is your final call. You need to report to the stewards immediately. Jori Schoens, Junior Rotax 226. And then 345, I need Teddy Clinton to report to the stewards as well. So this is your first announcement of that. So Teddy Clinton, 345 to the stewards. But Dean Hugendorn wins from SP Motorsport. Karel Stout, 3.5 seconds adrift, who finishes over 6 seconds ahead of Mies Huben. Mick Vandenberg in 4th, battling right to the checkered flag. Eric Poulsen and Scott Marsh round out the top 6, with Maximov, Rooyen and Rodkin rounding out the 9 that finished, with unfortunately Tom Pappenberg having an early finish on that particular race down in 10th, with Jake Menton unfortunately not finishing, or not even taking the start.